The invisible game. Imagine, two friends. They grow up in the same neighborhood, attend the same school, graduate from the same university, and at 24, they both land jobs paying $60,000 a year. At first, their lives look almost identical. They rent similar apartments, drive similar cars, go on the same weekend trips. Their paychecks arrive on the same day. If you met them, you'd probably think, but fast forward 25 years. One of them is financially free. He owns several investments. His money keeps growing, even while he sleeps. Working has become a choice, not a necessity. The other still wakes up every Monday, checks his bank account before paying bills, worries about retirement, and wonders where all the money went. The strange part? Neither of them won the lottery. Neither inherited millions. Neither became a celebrity. Neither invented the next Apple. So, what changed? Today, you're going to discover why the rich keep getting richer, while millions of hardworking people stay exactly where they started. And once you understand this, you'll never look at money the same way again. Chapter 1. The biggest lie about wealth. Most people grow up believing one simple idea. Study hard, get a good job, work hard, earn more money, and eventually, you'll become rich. Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? But if that were true, why do we see doctors earning hundreds of thousands of dollars, living paycheck to paycheck? Why do professional athletes declare bankruptcy? Why do lottery winners lose millions within just a few years? Because income and wealth are not the same thing. This is where most people unknowingly lose the game. Money has two completely different jobs. The first is to help you survive today, pay rent, buy food, cover your bills. The second is to build your future. And here's the problem. Most people spend almost everything on the first job, leaving almost nothing for the second. Let's make this real. Imagine two people, Alex and Brian, both earn exactly $5,000 every month. Same salary, same city, same age. Every payday, Alex upgrades something. A newer phone, a better car, designer clothes, expensive dinners. Nothing outrageous, just little rewards for working hard. And honestly, many of us would probably do the same. Brian also enjoys life. But every month, before buying anything, he invests $1,500. Automatically, he never waits until the end of the month, because he already knows there probably won't be anything left. 5 years later, their salaries are still almost identical, but their financial lives have become completely different. Alex owns things that slowly lose value. Brian owns assets that slowly create more money. The difference isn't intelligence. It isn't luck. It isn't working harder. It's simply where the money went. The wealth trap nobody talks about. Here's something interesting. Have you ever noticed that every time people get a raise, their lifestyle seems to grow just as fast? A bigger paycheck becomes a bigger apartment. A nicer apartment becomes a luxury SUV. The SUV becomes expensive vacations. Before long, the extra income disappears. Not because life became cheaper, but because spending quietly expanded to match income. Economists even have a name for this. Lifestyle inflation is one of the biggest reasons high-income people don't necessarily become wealthy. Here's a real-world example. In 2023, the average household income in many developed countries was significantly higher than it was 20 years ago. Yet surveys continued to show that many households still reported living paycheck to paycheck. Not because they earned too little, but because their expenses kept rising alongside their income. More money doesn't automatically create wealth. Better decisions do. The rich play a different game. Now here's where things become fascinating. Most people think rich people simply have more money. That's not entirely true. Rich people often play by completely different rules. When most people receive a paycheck, they ask, "What can I buy?" When wealthy investors receive money, they ask, "What can I own that will make me even more money?" That single question changes everything, because every dollar is no longer just money. It's an employee working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without ever asking for a vacation.
Now let me tell you a story. Not about a billionaire. Not about a CEO. Not about someone who built a tech company. His name was Ronald Red. He worked as a gas station attendant. Later, he became a janitor. By all appearances, he lived an ordinary life. He drove used cars. He wore simple clothes. He rarely spent money on luxury. Nothing about him suggested wealth. When Ronald Read passed away in 2014, people were shocked. He had quietly built an investment portfolio worth around $8 million. Not because he earned an extraordinary salary. Not because he won the lottery. Not because he got lucky. He simply invested consistently, owned quality companies, reinvested his returns, and gave his investments decades to grow. His story teaches something powerful. You don't always need extraordinary income to build extraordinary wealth. You often need extraordinary patience. Why most people never experience compound growth. Here's where many people unknowingly sabotage themselves. Eventually, your investments begin earning more than you do. Not overnight, not in 1 year, but after enough time, the momentum changes completely. Here's something wealthy people understand. Every dollar has a choice. Spend it once, or let it work forever. When they buy an asset, they're not thinking about today. They're thinking, what will this dollar become in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Because they know, one invested dollar can become many dollars if they simply leave it alone. And while most people are chasing the next paycheck, the wealthy are building the next stream of income. But if compound growth is so powerful, why doesn't everyone become wealthy? Why do millions of hardworking people who earn good salaries still struggle financially? Because there's another invisible trap, one that quietly steals wealth without anyone noticing. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it's responsible for keeping more people poor than almost any financial mistake you'll ever hear about. Here's one of the biggest misunderstandings about wealth. Many people confuse looking rich with being rich. The expensive sports car, the designer clothes, the luxury watches, the giant house, those are often symbols of spending, not necessarily symbols of wealth. True wealth is usually invisible. You can't see someone's investment portfolio. You can't see their ownership in businesses. You can't see their retirement accounts. You can't see the rental property generating income every month. There's an old saying, wealth is what you don't see. Money sitting in investments doesn't impress strangers, but years later can completely change your life. Now, let's clear up a common misconception. This isn't about never enjoying life. It's not about skipping every coffee or living miserably. Wealth isn't built by denying yourself happiness. Imagine planting a fruit tree. Every year produces fruit. Now imagine cutting the tree down just because you wanted firewood for one night. That's what happens when we constantly spend the money that could have become an asset. The wealthy don't avoid enjoyment. They simply delay some gratification so they can enjoy much greater freedom later. The rich ask different questions. Most people ask, can I afford this? The wealthy often ask, will this make me wealthier? That single question changes every financial decision. Instead of buying something because they received a raise, they ask, could this money buy an asset instead? Could it purchase part of a business? Could it earn dividends? Could it generate rental income? Could it grow for the next 20 years? Little by little, those decisions compound, not just financially, but psychologically. Eventually, wealth becomes less about discipline and more about habit. So now we know why many people stay trapped. It's not because they don't work hard. It's because their money never gets the chance to become an employee. But this raises an even bigger question. If the wealthy aren't simply saving more, where does their money actually come from? How do businesses, stocks, and real estate create wealth even while people sleep? Because this is where the rich stop trading time for money and start building systems that work for them every single day. The system the wealthy understand how money starts working for you. The average person is getting ready for work. Someone is sitting in traffic. Someone is clocking in for another shift. Someone is already checking emails before they've even had breakfast. Now imagine, at that exact same moment, someone else's money is already working. A tenant has just paid rent. A company has just paid dividends. An online business has made its first sale of the day. An index fund has increased in value before its owner even wakes up. That's the moment wealth begins to look completely different. Not because rich people don't work, but because they're no longer the only one working. Their money works too. Money is the best employee you'll ever have. Imagine hiring an employee. He never sleeps, never takes a vacation, never asks for a promotion, never calls in sick, and he works every single second for the rest of your life. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? But that's exactly what an asset does. Every dollar invested becomes an employee, and the more employees you have, the less dependent you become on your own time. Most people think money is something you spend. The wealthy think differently. They see money as something they hire, assets versus liabilities. Let's simplify this. Imagine you receive $10,000. You have two choices. Choice number one, you buy the newest luxury watch. It looks amazing. People compliment you. You feel successful. But 1 year later, it's worth less than what you paid. It never earned you a single dollar. Choice number two, you invest that same money, maybe into an index fund, maybe into part of a business, maybe into equipment that helps you start a small side business. Now, instead of costing you money, it begins generating money. The watch made you look richer. The investment made you become richer. And that's a huge difference. A lesson from McDonald's. Here's something fascinating. When people think about McDonald's, they think it's a burger company. But here's the interesting part. For decades, McDonald's has also been one of the largest real estate businesses in the world. Instead of simply selling burgers, the company owns or controls many of the locations where those burgers are sold. Think about that. The food business generates customers. The real estate generates long-term value. That's how wealthy businesses think. One asset supports another. Income creates more income. The rich rarely rely on just one stream of money. They build systems where multiple streams support each other. The wealth pyramid. Let's imagine you're building a pyramid. At the bottom is your job, your salary. That's where almost everyone starts. Now, instead of spending every extra dollar, you buy your first asset. Maybe it's an investment fund. Maybe it's dividend-paying stocks. Maybe it's a small online business. Maybe it's a rental property. Now, that asset begins producing income. Instead of spending that income, you buy another asset, then another, then another. Eventually, your salary is no longer carrying the entire weight of your life. If this video changed the way you think about money, don't let it become another video you simply watched. Take one action today. Open an investment account. Increase your savings rate. Read one book about money. Or simply, write down one financial goal you've been avoiding. Small actions, repeated consistently, create extraordinary results. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more videos that explain money, investing, and economics in a simple visual way, subscribe to the channel. And before you leave, answer this in the comments. If you received a 20% raise tomorrow, what would you do with it? Spend it or invest it? I'd love to hear your answer.